There are places that history prefers to bury, places where the walls hold not only echoes of the past, but something more, something that still breathes, that slips through the shadows, that remains. Today, we won't speak of empty myths or forgotten rumors. Today, on Cronoearth, we'll explore 20 real places, haunted not only by the inexplicable, but by what history chose to silence, with documents, with witnesses, and with wounds still open, places that, perhaps, should never have been touched. Before we begin, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because this journey won't be a superficial one, and every step we take will lead you deeper. And if you make it to the end, you'll discover something more, a disturbing pattern connecting everything that once seemed isolated, a warning, a shadow without borders. Are you ready? Take a deep breath and join us at the first location. To begin this journey, we head to a continent where history is written in stone, and where every castle, every tunnel, and every corridor holds more than just memories. Now, we'll reveal to you the most haunted places in Europe, real settings of tragedies, trials, wars, and presences that, according to many, have never truly left. Place 1. Edinburgh Castle, Scotland. In the heart of Scotland, atop an ancient volcanic hill, rises one of the oldest and most feared fortresses on the continent, Edinburgh Castle. Since the 12th century, it has witnessed wars, royal betrayals, sieges, and public executions. A residence of kings, a prison for rebels, a garrison for soldiers, a symbol of absolute power, carved in stone. But it is not only its history that makes it unforgettable, it's what many claim to feel when they step inside. The old dungeons once held prisoners of war, heretics, traitors, in damp, lightless cells, surrounded by walls that seem to close in with each passing day. Some visitors say you can still hear distant screams, as if time itself had refused to move on in certain corners. One of the most famous tales is that of the headless drummer, a faceless figure said to appear before tragic events. He has been seen marching in a 17th century uniform, to the beat of a drum that no one has ever been able to locate. There have also been reports of apparitions in the area known as the prisoners of war vaults, a ragged figure passing through walls, and cold presences that approach from behind, leaving no trace. During paranormal investigations, cameras have failed without explanation. Motion sensors have triggered in completely empty rooms. Today, the castle is open to visitors every day, yet there are areas where guides lower their voices, and corners where even the most skeptical admit they do not feel alone. They say that stones hold memory, and here every wall seems to have something to say, though not everyone is ready to listen. Can silence itself be a form of memory? Perhaps in places like this, the answer still speaks to us, through stone. Think about it as we move on, because now we leave the heights of Edinburgh and descend to an island where death never truly left, a place where time itself seems to have surrendered. Next destination, Poveglia, Italy. Place 2. Poveglia Island, Italy. Off the elegant shores of Venice, between canals and mist, lies a small island that time itself has chosen to silence. From afar, it looks harmless. Dense vegetation, ivy-covered ruins, a bell tower still defying the wind. But as you draw closer, the atmosphere changes. The air thickens. Stillness is no longer beauty. It's a warning. We are on Poveglia, a place so burdened by death that few dare to even speak its name aloud. For centuries, this island served as a forced quarantine zone. When the Black Plague ravaged Europe, the sick, infected, or merely suspected were sent here to vanish. Many were still alive when they were thrown into pits beside the dead. There was no care, no burial, only fire and silence. It is estimated that more than 160,000 people died on Poveglia, and that its soil is literally made of human ash. This is no metaphor. The ground itself was enriched by the burned bodies. But the story didn't end there. In the 20th century, the island reopened, this time as a psychiatric hospital. And if the past had already left scars, what happened then added new darkness. Patients claimed to see faceless figures, to hear wails rising from the walls, to feel presences watching them through the night. Doctors dismissed it as delusion, but one of them, feared for his cruel lobotomies, fell from the top of the bell tower. They say he didn't jump. They say he was pushed. Today, Poveglia is officially closed. There are no tourist routes, no signs on the maps, yet some still dare to cross the waters in secret, and those who do rarely return unchanged. They speak of footsteps crunching on gravel when no one is near, of whispers rising through the fog, and of a chill that clings to the skin and doesn't leave for days. Poveglia is not merely a relic of disease and abandonment. It is an open wound, a place that absorbed the pain of thousands and returned it transformed. Can a physical space retain the energy of human suffering, or is it our own history that projects ghosts into forgotten corners? Whatever the truth, the island remains there, waiting. We stay in Europe, but now we move toward a place heavy with official history, treason, executions, and apparitions witnessed even by trained soldiers. Prepare yourself, because what happens inside the Tower of London is not just history, it's still happening. Place 3. The Tower of London, England. In the heart of London, beside the River Thames, rises a stone fortress, as imposing as it is unsettling. The Tower of London, a symbol of royal power, and a silent tomb of countless secrets. Built in the 11th century, it was far more than a royal residence. Here, sentences were passed, betrayals executed, and part of Britain's history was written in blood. Figures such as Anne Boleyn and Lady Jane Grey met their end within these walls, and they say they never truly left. Anne Boleyn, wife of Henry VIII, is one of the most persistent apparitions. She has been seen wandering headless through the corridors, dressed in white, following the same path she took before her execution. Royal guards have filed official reports of inexplicable encounters, floating lights, spectral figures, and sudden drops in temperature that defy all logic. In the Bloody Tower, where political prisoners were once tortured, there have been sounds of sobbing with no source, footsteps with no body, and even the beefeaters, guards trained in tradition, admit there are areas where they lower their voices, because here, even silence seems to remember. They say the past can be buried, but in the Tower of London, the past stands up and walks. And do you believe places can hold the soul of their history? Or that some presences never accepted being forgotten? Think about it as we continue our journey, because what comes next has no face, no name, only an energy that has terrified those who dared to enter for centuries. We head now to Ireland. Next stop, Leap Castle, and the dark being that dwells within. Place 4. Leap Castle, Ireland. Now we travel to the rural heart of Ireland, a place where mist covers the hills and the stones speak if you know how to listen. There rises a medieval fortress with a dense, heavy energy, one that can be felt even before crossing its walls. We are at Leap Castle. Built in the 13th century, this castle was the scene of clan wars, fratricides, and dark rituals. But the most disturbing part isn't what was written in its history. It's what was found hidden within its walls centuries later. During renovations in the 1990s, workers discovered a secret chamber. Inside, hundreds of human bones. The victims had fallen through a trapdoor, directly onto a pit lined with steel spikes. They weren't prisoners of war. They were condemned, possibly for religious or political reasons, or perhaps for something far older. Among all the phenomena recorded, one occurrence repeats again and again: the presence of a nameless entity. A creature unlike any traditional ghost, more like the shadow. It is known as the elemental. It manifests as a dark, short figure with hollow eyes. Those who have seen it describe a rotting stench, a feeling of imminent danger, and in some cases light physical attacks, scratches, dizziness, collapse. Even mediums and paranormal experts have admitted that this place is unlike any other. The castle is open to visitors, but those who enter without respect often leave with more than just a story. Leap Castle is not merely haunted, it is marked. If this story has surprised you, and you enjoy exploring the world's darkest corners, subscribe to Cronoearth and activate the notification bell. That way you'll be the first to discover what still remains hidden. Now, we head to the City of Light, but beneath its streets darkness reigns, kilometers of tunnels, walls of bone, and something that never rests. Join me in the Catacombs of Paris, a labyrinth not made for the living. Place 5. The Catacombs of Paris, France. Paris, city of light, art, beauty, and death. Beneath its elegant streets, cafes, and grand avenues lies a completely different world. A dark, narrow, damp labyrinth. A network of tunnels that were never meant for the living. We're talking about the Catacombs of Paris. By the late 18th century, the city's cemeteries were overflowing. There were so many bodies that epidemics threatened to spread across Paris. The solution was drastic. More than 6 million corpses were transferred underground. Skulls, femurs, tibias, arranged with precision, forming walls, arches, and columns of bone. Today, only a small section of this system is open to the public, but what visitors see on official tours is just a fragment. The rest, over 300 kilometers of tunnels, remains off the maps, and those who have ventured in without permission sometimes never return. Lost recordings have been found years later, capturing footsteps, voices, and whispers with no clear source. Even city workers have abandoned their posts after claiming that something was following them. There are zones where electronic equipment fails, where the air grows heavy, and where your only companion is the echo of your own steps. Some believe the catacombs are nothing but bones, but many insist that what lies below is still alive in memory, and sometimes it answers. Keep watching. We're not done with Europe yet, because now we travel to a cursed castle in the Austrian Alps, where dozens of women were tried for witchcraft, and where the echoes of their torment still seem to whisper through the stone. Our next destination, Schloss Muscham, Austria. Place 6. Schloss Muscham, Austria. Amid the misty valleys of the Austrian Alps stands a stone fortress that looks like something from a romantic painting. But beneath that majestic beauty lies one of the darkest chapters in Europe's heart. This is Schloss Muscham, a 13th century castle that served as a courthouse, a prison, and the setting for one of the continent's largest witch trials. During the 16th and 17th centuries, dozens of people, most of them women, were imprisoned here, accused of practicing witchcraft. The torture was systematic, the confessions were forced, and the verdicts final. Many never left the dungeons, or if they did, it was only to be burned before the crowd. Today, the cells still preserve the instruments of torment, and those brave enough to walk its corridors say the castle remembers. Visitors speak of doors opening on their own, whispers in the halls, and a woman dressed in black who appears by the staircase, only to vanish before she can be reached. These are not merely local legends. Even historians and castle guides avoid being alone here at night. They say there are rooms where the air thickens, where the walls themselves seem to watch you back. Schloss Muscham is not just a castle, it is a historical scar, a witness to a time when fear ruled as law, and pain was part of the judgment. Can a place continue to judge, centuries after its judges are gone? Share your thoughts in the comments, and get ready, because now we leave Europe and cross the ocean. We're heading to a continent where the supernatural manifests among canals, prisons, and dolls hanging from trees. Next destination, America. We begin in Mexico, on the Island of the Dolls. Place 7. The Island of the Dolls, Mexico. On the outskirts of Mexico City, among the canals of Xochimilco, lies the Island of the Dolls, a floating landscape covered in vegetation, mud, and hundreds of dolls hanging from the trees. Some are missing arms, others have empty eyes, many are worn down by rain and time, yet they all retain something impossible to explain: presence. The story of the island begins with Don Julian Santana, a man who chose to isolate himself in this place after witnessing, or so he claimed, the death of a young girl who drowned in the canals. Not long after, he began finding dolls floating in the water, and each time he found one, he hung it on the trees as an offering, as protection. For years he lived surrounded by these figures. He claimed that at night they moved on their own, that he heard whispers, and that he was not alone. The most chilling part came decades later. Don Julian drowned in the very same spot where he said he had seen the girl. Since then, visitors and canal workers have reported dolls turning on their own, eyes that seem to follow you, and faint voices among the trees, even when there's no wind. The island is open to the public, but those who've walked its paths know it isn't decoration. It's a memorial, or perhaps an unwanted shrine. If this story has surprised you, leave us a like. Next, we leave the canals behind and step into the halls of a prison that changed the course of modern incarceration, but ended up becoming one of the darkest places in the United States. Stay with us to uncover all the secrets it holds. Up next, Eastern State Penitentiary, Pennsylvania. Place 8. Eastern State Penitentiary, United States. From the canals of Xochimilco, we now travel to the northeastern United States, to a historic city, a monumental building, and one of the darkest prison experiments in the Western world. We enter Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. Opened in 1829, it was the first prison in the world built to enforce total isolation as a path to redemption. Individual cells, no human contact, food delivered through slots, silence mandatory. No one saw anyone. They called it reform, but in practice, it was a slow unraveling of the mind. Many inmates developed hallucinations, depression, panic attacks. The consequences were so severe that in time the model was abandoned, though not before leaving deep scars in its walls, and perhaps something more. After its closure in 1971, the rumors began: footsteps in empty corridors, muffled screams from sealed cells, and dark figures that vanished the moment you turned a corner. Paranormal investigators have recorded thermal anomalies, sound distortions, and even audio in which voices can be heard, voices that no one spoke in real time. One of the most chilling testimonies comes from a former guard who swore he saw a human-shaped shadow glide across the wall without sound, without touching the ground. Today, the penitentiary is open as a museum, but not all guides agree to work at night. Eastern State was designed to reform through isolation, but it ended up leaving marks far deeper than physical ones. In its corridors, you can still feel something that isn't seen, but is undeniably there. What do you think of this story? Do you believe a place can hold on to the despair of those who suffered within it? Share your thoughts in the comments, and keep watching, because what comes next still has much more to reveal. Now we head west, to a prison famous for its security, and for those who never escaped, though according to some, someone, or something, still walks its halls. Our next destination, Alcatraz, San Francisco. Place 9. Alcatraz, United States. Off the coast of San Francisco, surrounded by icy waters and treacherous currents, lies one of the most famous and feared prisons in the world. Alcatraz, the Rock. For decades, it was the very definition of maximum security, a fortress built to contain the most dangerous criminals, including Al Capone and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. But over time, something else lingered in its corridors. Something not listed in official reports yet deeply felt by many. During its years of operation, guards reported unexplained screams, cell doors slamming shut on their own, and human figures that vanished when approached. Block D, home to the isolation cells, remains especially feared. One prisoner screamed all night, claiming that something was attacking him. By morning, he was dead, and he wasn't the only one. Since the prison's closure in 1963, Alcatraz has become a museum, yet workers and tourists alike continue to report chilling experiences: doors that open by themselves, chains that drag across the floor, shadows crossing hallways, even recordings capturing conversations in languages no longer spoken. They say no one ever escaped Alcatraz, but perhaps some never left for another reason. Now we descend even deeper, to a hotel steeped in crime, disappearances, suicides, and a mystery that even the internet hasn't been able to silence. We're heading to the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. We're crossing the midpoint of this journey, and if you've made it this far, it's because you're seeing beyond the visible. Let us know you're still with us. Comment the word echo. That's how we'll know how many still listen to what others choose to ignore. What we've explored so far hasn't been just a list, but fragments of history, of pain, and of places not entirely forgotten. Each site has opened a door, one that shows us that the invisible also leaves a mark, and if you can feel that, you already know this isn't just entertainment, it's an experience, a deep exploration of the darkest and most human side of our world. If you haven't yet, subscribe to Cronoearth and activate the notification bell, because what comes next will make your skin crawl. Don't go just yet, we still have several places left to explore, and the last one, believe me, will leave you speechless. The intensity won't drop from here. On the contrary, some of the next places are even more disturbing than everything we've seen so far. Our next destination crossed borders. It became a viral case, but its story is far older and far darker. Crimes, suicides, disappearances, and a piece of security footage that to this day still has no clear explanation. We're going to the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Place 10. The Cecil Hotel, United States. In the heart of Los Angeles, among skyscrapers, tourists, and neon lights, stands a building that most people pass by without noticing. But darkness hasn't forgotten it. This is the Cecil Hotel, a name that, for some, means nothing anymore, but for others, represents everything that can go wrong with a place. Opened in 1927 as a symbol of luxury, it soon began to decay, a decline that wasn't just economic, but spiritual. For decades, its rooms witnessed suicides, murders, disappearances, and the presence of terrifying figures like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who lived there during his killing spree. It's said he returned to the hotel covered in blood, and no one dared to ask questions. But the story that turned the Cecil into legend took place in 2013. Elisa Lam, a Canadian student, was found dead inside one of the hotel's water tanks. Elisa, of Asian descent though Canadian, was mistakenly identified as Japanese by some media outlets, adding confusion to an already disturbing case. She had been missing for days. What shocked the world wasn't just her death, but the footage captured by an elevator security camera. There, she appears acting erratically, pressing buttons in random order, peeking into the hallway, as if someone or something were following her. But in the video, there's no one else. The case was officially ruled an accident, but those who have watched that footage know it's not so easy to close that story, because the Cecil isn't just a hotel, it's a living archive of tragedy. Current guests report unexplained noises, whispering at night, and the constant feeling of being watched, even when alone. Today the building has a new name, but its essence seems untouched, and the past, like a poorly sealed crack, continues to seep through the walls. Can a place absorb the weight of human suffering, or is it the unresolved secrets that generate the energy refusing to leave? The Cecil Hotel isn't just a viral story, it's a warning disguised as a hotel, a resonating chamber where the unexplainable still breathes. Now, we move south, to a house in Peru, where fear isn't rented, it moves in. Place 11. The Matacita House, Peru, Lima. Capital of Peru. A city full of colonial history, plazas, churches, and mysteries you won't find in any travel guide. On a busy corner, directly across from a former state intelligence building, stands a house with an ordinary facade, yet shrouded in legend. This is the Matacita House. According to local tradition, this building is so haunted that no one has ever managed to spend an entire night inside without losing their sanity. There are many versions of the story. One of the most common tells of a woman who practiced witchcraft rituals there centuries ago. Another claims that a man once lived inside and poisoned his entire family. Since then, they say, the house has been marked. In the 1970s, a well-known journalist attempted to spend the night there as part of a televised challenge. According to the story, he fled the house screaming, disoriented, and was never the same again. Others insist that maintenance workers heard disembodied voices, that objects moved on their own, and that the upper floors were sealed off, not for structural safety, but for reasons far harder to explain. Today, the house is not open to the public, but those who walk past it claim to feel a chill as they pass its shuttered windows. Some call it imagination, others simply cross the street rather than look inside. If you've never heard this story before, let us know in the comments. And now we travel to the Caribbean, to one of Latin America's most famous cemeteries, a place of striking architectural beauty, but also of legends, rituals, and apparitions that unsettle even in broad daylight. Our next destination, Colón Cemetery, Cuba. Place 12. Colón Cemetery, Cuba, Havana. A city rich with history, music, color, and secrets that do not rest. At its heart lies one of the largest and most majestic cemeteries in Latin America, Colón Cemetery. Founded in 1876, it is known for its monumental architecture, marble sculptures, and mausoleums that resemble temples. But beneath that beauty are stories that have endured for generations. Here rest presidents, artists, poets, and thousands of anonymous souls, many with tragic, interrupted, or unfinished stories. One of the most visited tombs belongs to La Milagrosa, the miraculous one, a young mother who died giving birth. Her baby was buried with her, and years later, the grave was opened to reveal something inexplicable. Their bodies had shifted. The mother now held the child in her arms. Since then, thousands of visitors have left letters, flowers, and prayers at her tomb, and many claim to have received answers, dreams, signs, impossible coincidences. But not everything brings comfort. Night guards have reported lights turning on with no power source, shadows moving between the mausoleums, and voices emerging from sealed tombs. Some visitors feel sudden drops in temperature in certain corridors, and more than a few have left with the sensation that something was walking beside them. Colón Cemetery is more than a burial ground. It's an open-air museum and an archive of emotions, beliefs, and unfinished goodbyes. Some see it as a place of peace, others as a point where the boundary between the living and the unseen grows dangerously thin. What do you think? Can spaces of memory hold more than just remembrance? If you dare, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't disconnect, because what comes next hides its darkness among roots and trees. We now leave behind the tombstones to enter the deep forest, a real forest in Argentina, where silence isn't peace, it's a warning. Our next destination, the so-called Forest of Suicides. Place 13. The Forest of Suicides, Argentina. There are silences that comfort, and others that weigh like a secret. On the outskirts of La Plata, Argentina, there lies a small forest that few dare to speak of out loud. It doesn't appear in tourist guides, nor does it have an official name, but among locals, it's known as the Forest of Suicides. During the 1980s and 90s, disturbing stories began to accumulate. People who entered and never returned, or who, when found, had made tragic choices beneath the shadows of the trees. No one knows how many. There are no exact figures, but something in that place has stirred unease for generations. Those who have ventured inside agree on something strange. The air becomes denser, outside sounds fade, and time itself seems to work differently. Paranormal research groups have tried to record what happens there. Their equipment fails without explanation, compasses spin, and some explorers claim to have felt that something, or someone, was watching them from among the trees, without being there. There have been countless theories, from the soil's electromagnetic properties to residual energies linked to accumulated emotional pain. But the forest offers no answers, only sensations of loss, of disconnection, of a loneliness that doesn't feel natural. Can a place absorb the energy of those who carried too much within themselves? Or is it our own fear that turns these spaces into invisible thresholds? What comes next won't ease the tension, it will deepen it. We travel now to Central America, to the highlands of Cartago, Costa Rica, where an abandoned hospital holds the echoes of an incurable disease, and something else that never left. Next stop, Sanatorio Duran. Place 14. Sanatorio Duran, Costa Rica. High in the misty mountains of Cartago, Costa Rica, where fog cloaks the trees and silence is as thick as the air, stands a building frozen in time. Sanatorio Duran. Built in 1918, it was the country's first hospital dedicated to the treatment of tuberculosis, a place of science and hope, but also of solitude, confinement, and death. Men, women, and children were brought here, isolated by an illness without a cure. Many came seeking relief, others never left. But when the hospital closed in the 1970s, not everything was left behind. The building was abandoned, but never truly empty. Over the years, stories began to emerge, and with them, unease, footsteps echoing in empty corridors, doors opening without cause, whispers of children coming from sealed rooms, and one presence seen again and again, a little girl dressed in white, standing by the window, watching visitors in silence until she fades away. Researchers investigating the phenomenon have recorded sudden drops in temperature, equipment interference, and a lingering sense of being watched, as if the walls not only listened, but remembered. Today, Sanatorio Duran is open to visitors, but few dare to stay longer than necessary, because something inside seems unwilling to be forgotten. Do you believe a hospital can retain the echo of suffering, or is it the visitor who projects their own shadow into its halls? If this journey through the unseen is stirring something within you, subscribe to Cronoearth and don't forget to activate the notification bell. That way you won't miss what's still to come, because the most unsettling part hasn't arrived yet. Now we head to Asia, to ancient temples, silent forests, and colonial structures that hide secrets time itself could not erase. Aokigahara, the Forest of Suicides, Japan. Place 15. Aokigahara, Japan. We begin our journey through Asia, in one of the most haunting, mysterious, and sorrowful places on Earth. At the foot of the majestic Mount Fuji, a vast forest stretches out like a thick green carpet. Beautiful, yes, but eerily silent. We are in Aokigahara, also known as the Forest of Suicides. For decades, this place has been the setting for hundreds of self-inflicted deaths. And though authorities have tried to erase that reputation, the forest still seems to draw those burdened by pain too heavy to carry. Aokigahara is not just a forest, it's a place where sound disappears, where the vegetation is so dense that even sunlight fades into a dim glow, and where a compass can literally stop working due to the volcanic composition of the soil. Marked paths urge visitors to turn back. Signs nailed to trees bear messages of encouragement, but beyond the official trails, there are paths no one recommends following. Many visitors have reported feeling a constant presence, an energy that doesn't judge, but doesn't comfort either. Untraceable voices have been recorded, and some explorers claim to have felt that something or someone was walking beside them when no one was there. Japanese culture approaches Aokigahara with respect. It is an attempt to understand that there are places where pain has left a mark too deep to ignore. Stay with us, because now we head to one of the most forbidden sites in India, an ancient fortress closed to the public after sunset by law. a place where history and the inexplicable intertwine every night. Next destination, Bhangar Fort, India. Place 16. Bhangar Fort, India. In the state of Rajasthan, among arid hills and ancient ruins, stand the remains of a city that was once prosperous and now lies silent, empty, and watched from afar. This is Bhangar Fort. Built in the 17th century, it was once a walled city filled with temples, palaces, and bustling markets. But something happened, something that to this day no one can fully explain. According to local legend, a sorcerer fell in love with the princess of the kingdom. She rejected him, and in revenge, he cast a curse upon the place. Soon after, Bhangar was invaded and destroyed, and ever since, no one has been able to live there for long. Not even animals, not even plants in certain areas. But the most unsettling part isn't the legend, it's what happens now. The Indian government has officially banned entry after sunset, and at the main gate, a sign makes it very clear. Staying in this area after dark is strictly prohibited. Those who have ignored that warning, tourists, paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, report metallic sounds, hurried footsteps among the stones, and screams that end abruptly. Some have emerged disoriented, others have refused to speak about what they saw. Bhangar Fort is not just an abandoned site, it's a threshold between the physical and something else. And the most unsettling detail of all, there are no guards watching the place, only the sign, and a silent agreement that after a certain hour, it's best not to enter. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below in the comments. Your support helps Cronoearth grow and continue uncovering new mysteries. Now we journey to Southeast Asia, to a colonial structure with 1,000 doors and a dark past, a place so haunted by apparition that even soldiers refuse to stand guard at night. Our next destination, Lawang Sewu, Indonesia. Place 17. Lawang Sewu, Indonesia. In the city of Semarang, on the island of Java, stands a building as impressive as it is unsettling. Its name literally means the 1,000 doors. This is Lawang Sewu, built in the early 20th century by Dutch colonists. It originally served as the headquarters of a railway company, but over the years, its purpose changed, and so did its reputation. During World War II, Japanese forces occupied the building and turned it into a site of detention, torture, and execution. The basement became a prison, and the well waters, a place of no return. Today, the doors of Lawang Sewu remain open, but what is said to happen inside has made even the local police avoid patrolling the area at night. Witnesses have seen floating female figures gliding through the corridors, lights flickering on and off for no reason, and dark silhouettes crossing the halls without casting a shadow. One of the most well-known reports tells of a visitor who fainted the moment she crossed one of the interior doors. Later, she said she had seen someone staring straight at her, but without a face. EVP recordings, sudden thermal shifts, and unexplained phenomena have all been documented, events that even local investigators refuse to interpret. They say that in Lawang Sewu, you are never alone. You're simply being watched. And now we approach our final destination in Asia, an abandoned hospital wrapped in vines, rumors, and manifestations that continue, even though no one lives there. Next stop, Nam Kau Hospital, Hong Kong. Place 18. Nam Kau Hospital, Hong Kong. In the vibrant heart of Hong Kong, surrounded by modern avenues, neon lights, and glass skyscrapers, stands a structure frozen in time. Dark, overgrown with ivy, forgotten by the city, but not by those who still feel it breathing. This is Nam Kau Hospital. Built in the early 20th century, it served as a clinic, a temporary residence, and, according to some accounts, a detention center during the Japanese occupation in World War II. Rumors tell of torture, abuse, and screams that no one dared to record. And perhaps that is what remains trapped within its walls. Since its abandonment, the building has become the center of countless urban legends. Neighbors report lights turning on by themselves at night, silhouettes moving across empty windows, and a heavy, suffocating energy that makes it hard to breathe. One night, a group of students entered the building as part of a dare. What began as an adventure ended in tears, screams, and several of them in a state of shock. None ever spoke publicly about it again. Attempts to restore the site have failed. Companies hired for the work have withdrawn without explanation, and laborers refuse to continue after hearing voices calling them by name. Today, Nam Kau Hospital stands as a silent warning. It has no fences, yet no one enters, no signs, yet everyone knows it. Because there are places where forgetting is not an accident, it's a form of protection. Do you believe a building can absorb what happens inside it, or is it the untold history itself that creates its own echo? Now we head south to Africa, to a colonial fortress where the echoes of the past still resonate, a place of torture, resistance, and presences that endure. Place 19. Castle of Good Hope, South Africa. What you're about to hear is part of the most unsettling historical records from the African continent. On the shores of Cape Town stands the oldest surviving colonial structure in the country, and one of the most disturbing. This is the Castle of Good Hope. Built in the 17th century by the Dutch East India Company, it served as a military fortress, an official residence, and a center for imprisonment and torture. Political prisoners, enslaved people, and rebels were interrogated in its underground chambers. Some never came out, others left behind screams that, they say, can still be heard on the stillest nights. One of the best-known apparitions is that of a hooded figure that crosses the central courtyard before vanishing at the main gate. Another, the bell tower, whose bell rang on its own at midnight for years, even though it was no longer connected. Guards have reported seeing a black dog appear from nowhere, only to vanish right before touching them, and several visitors claim to have felt unseen eyes watching them in the rooms where physical punishments were once carried out. During restoration work, several laborers abandoned the site, not out of superstition, but because they were certain they weren't alone. Today, the castle functions as a museum, but even its own guides avoid certain corridors after dark. They say history cannot be erased, and here it seems to stand upright, waiting. Now then, we reach our final destination, and if you've made it this far, we want to thank and congratulate you for joining us on this journey. You're about to discover one of the most intense places imaginable. Our closing chapter takes us to Australia, to a historic prison where the echoes of the past have never stopped walking. Up next, Port Arthur. Place 20. Port Arthur, Australia. We've arrived at the end. Our final destination lies in the south of Tasmania, a landscape of wild beauty, mountains, sea, and thick vegetation. But even here, nature's serenity cannot silence what happened. This is Port Arthur, founded in 1830. It was one of the harshest penal colonies in the entire British Empire. Here they imprisoned repeat offenders, outcasts, and even children who simply didn't fit in. The regime was brutal: total isolation, physical punishment, enforced silence. Some survived, others simply dissolved into oblivion. Today it's a heritage site, but neither fresh paint nor the Tasmanian sun has managed to lift the shadow that remains. Visitors have seen figures moving in the cells, heard voices rising from beneath the ground, and felt a sadness that can't be described, only carried. A camera once caught shadows passing through sealed walls, and a tour guide ran out in the middle of the night speechless, without explanation. Port Arthur is not just history, it's a warning of what happens when punishment replaces compassion and guilt is left suspended without redemption. Was it only a prison, or, like many places we've visited on this journey, a place that never truly closed? And so, we've explored 20 destinations marked by pain, loss, and something that perhaps has no name. Real places with memory. Sites where the past doesn't end, it simply changes form. Perhaps the paranormal isn't made of ghosts. Perhaps it's history, when it refuses to be forgotten. Thank you for staying with us until the end. And if this journey made you see the sky and history with different eyes, if it planted questions that can't be easily answered, subscribe to Cronoearth and activate the notification bell. Because this wasn't an ending. If you want a second part, leave it in the comments with the phrase "second part." What you've just seen wasn't merely a story, it was a fracture, and on the other side, new doors await, new echoes, and truths that still fear being spoken. We'll see you in the next story, because as long as we keep listening, the invisible will never stop speaking.